The group Slaughter was one of the last so-called hair metal acts to have success just before the whole scene imploded by the early 90s, thanks to the rise of alternative music. Their success, though, was almost unheard of because of the unusual path they took. Let's explore their commercial success in today's video. Be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. I would greatly appreciate if you guys did that. In addition to, of course, watching my videos and sharing my content. Slaughter's beginnings started with vocalist Mark Slaughter and bassist Dana Strum. Mark hailed from Vegas and was even a one-time guitar teacher. He fronted a local band early in his career called Excursion, but the city wasn't really a hotbed of rock talent back in the 80s. He remarked to the Las Vegas Sun, "I'm very proud to be from Las Vegas. This is a great city. In those days, you hightailed it out of Vegas as fast as you could to go be a rock star in LA, New York, or whatever. Coming from Vegas was almost comedy." Slaughter and Strum ended up meeting for the first time when Mark was recording backing vocals for a band called Sin, who was hoping at the time to land a fan base in Japan. At the time working as a studio engineer, and he was already working with ex-Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent. Strum, you might remember, famously told guitarist Randy Rhoads to audition for Ozzy Osbourne. Strum told the Vegas Sun, "All of a sudden I hear this kid in the background session singing 'Yeah.' And I said, 'Hang on, do you always sing like that?' And he's like, 'Do you want me to drop down?' And I'm like, 'No. Not long after that meeting, Strum got Slaughter a gig fronting Vinnie Vincent's Invasion from the mid to late 80s. Prior to playing with Vinnie Vincent, Strum in the late 70s was in a group called Bad Axe. He recounted, "We were a Hollywood circuit band playing the same clubs as London, which was Nikki Sixx and Sweet 19, with Greg London and Tommy Lee. We were headlining the Starwood, headlining the Whiskey, the normal thing." Getting back to Vinnie Vincent, he had a group at the time called Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Slaughter appeared on the group's second record, 1988's All Systems Go, which peaked at number 64 in America. After 2 albums, though, Vinnie Vincent lost his deal with Chrysalis Records and the group called it a day. Apparently, the label was not happy with Vincent, with Mark telling Classic Rock Revisited, "You know, Vinnie was difficult and the record company was not happy with some of his business dealings." Adding, "We were just considered sidemen to Vincent. We were like garbage to him, and why deal with something like that?" It turned out that Vinnie Vincent wasn't a fan of Mark Slaughter singing, but the record label was. In fact, Slaughter stated in numerous interviews that Vincent sabotaged his own career by consciously downplaying his own abilities as a guitarist, focusing on shredding instead of more emotional playing. Now, luckily, Chrysalis wanted to do business with both Strum and Slaughter and signed the pair to a recording contract. It was really important to both Slaughter and Strum that they wanted their new outfit to be like the early days of Van Halen, just the guys enjoying themselves and playing music together. The pair soon recruited guitarist Tim Kelly as well as drummer Blas Elias. They had actually met Kelly at a barbecue, and the first thing the guitarist told Slaughter was, "You want weenies or chicken?" As for Elias, Strum revealed that the drummer was originally from Dallas, remarking how he told the pair that he had no money to return home if he didn't land the gig. Slaughter and Strum's outfit was finally put together by January of '89, and they cut some demos at the record plant in LA. The name Slaughter was unanimously chosen, with Mark telling the Honolulu Star-Bulletin, "I was the last one to say, yeah, it'd be cool. I think Slaughter is definitely a good reflection of what we do. We have a lot of energy. We're very outgoing." You would think, being from Vegas, Mark would have been influenced by the likes of Wayne Newton or Elvis Presley, but instead, he cited Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Motley Crue, the Beatles, as well as R&B as some of his biggest influences. The band wrote their debut record in just 2.5 weeks, thanks to 3 a.m. jam sessions that were fueled by Domino's pizza. In fact, they even wrote the lyrics on the Domino's pizza boxes. One of the early songs they came up with was the song Up All Night, which was meant to be partially autobiographical about this time, with Mark adding, "It was a crazy time. We were all broke, so we got 7 other starving musicians to move in with us to pay the rent." The song was also inspired partially by New York City, with Mark adding, "In the right speaker, very subdued, you'll hear a guy coming up and whispering, 'Wanna buy a watch?' You hear the corruption of the city, but here are these kids singing the chorus Up All Night. They don't see the corruption yet." And ahead of their debut record coming out, the band's label held focus groups in major cities across the country. They played attendees 20 songs the group had written and recorded, and gathered feedback to figure out which songs should be included on the album. While some claim the move was simply done for commercial appeal, Strum disagreed, adding, "We're proud that our fans helped pick our songs." Their debut album was issued on January 23rd, 1990, entitled Stick It To Ya. Slaughter ended up being one of the last bands to hit it big before a wave of alternative rock ushered in a new era of music. Now, what's really unusual about Slaughter is that they hadn't even played one single show in front of an audience, and their debut record went gold, meaning it sold about 500,000 copies. Their label also didn't really put a huge marketing push behind the group either. Slaughter's first ever gig was opening for Kiss and Faster Pussycat in May of 1990 in Lubbock, Texas. The band took Brittany Fox's spot, who was dropped due to slow sales of their second album, Boys in Heat. When Slaughter got off stage, they were met by the reps of their label, who presented the members with a gold record. Mark told the Chicago Tribune, "We never played live before. We played in rehearsals where roadies watched us, but other than that, nobody had seen us, and we went gold as soon as we came off the stage." So how did the band get a gold record with no live shows? Well, there were several things that happened. Number one, they weren't exactly unknown musicians, as half of them had previously played with Vinnie Vincent. MTV was, of course, really instrumental as well, as they promoted the heck out of the lead single Up All Night, and it soon became the most requested song on the network and on their program Dial MTV for 6 consecutive weeks. Slaughter's song Up All Night ended up peaking at number 27 on the Hot 100 chart and number 21 on the Album Rock Tracks chart. Mark also pointed to another reason for their success, pointing to their fans, adding, "The fans kept us alive, so to speak. They'd write to magazines about us, and the magazines would respond. It kept the ball rolling." In addition to that, the band had also been making non-performing appearances in markets including Chicago, a city which took them under their wing. Their debut also had 2 other big singles, including Fly to the Angels and Spend My Life, which resulted in the record going double platinum. Fly to the Angels was written as a tribute by Mark to a deceased high school sweetheart. He told the Tribune, "It doesn't glorify death. It's about getting on with your life after someone you love dies. We were close, but I had long hair, and there were people who said, 'Hey, don't go out with that rocker dude.' I thought, hey, I'm starting to get my feet on the ground a little bit. Maybe I'll go see her." One of the friends called and said, "Hey, I have some bad news. Cindy died 2 days ago, and her funeral is tomorrow." Mark, in a separate interview, added how the band thought of the track as a cool Led Zeppelin thing rather than simply being another 80s era rock ballad. Fly to the Angels proved to be another crossover hit, peaking at number 19 on the Hot 100 chart and number 15 on the Mainstream Rock Tracks chart. Spend My Life, meanwhile, was the 3rd single and yet another crossover hit, peaking at number 39 on the Hot 100 and number 28 on the Mainstream Rock Tracks chart. 4th and final single, Mad About You, ended up peaking at number 37 on the Mainstream Rock Tracks chart. Now let's talk about some of the other songs off their debut record. Eye to Eye deals with prejudice, with Mark telling the Indianapolis News, "When you have long hair and you walk into a store or you're talking on a cellular phone, immediately you're labeled as a drug addict or drug dealer or something to do with drugs." Meanwhile, the track Burning Bridges, according to Mark, was a type of "who do you think you are" type of rant, referring to it as borderline hilarious. Song She Wants More is about a material girl who wants to see how far her credit card can go. In fact, it was something that happened to the band members. Mark told the Chicago Tribune, "Yeah, some of us had our credit cards stolen by a young lady in LA who basically tried to go shopping on us. We knew her, but sometimes you don't realize what people are really like. They caught her and took the cards. We didn't press charges. We figured, hey, she won't do it again. And luckily for us, she didn't ring up any sales." As for the woman on the front cover, that was Lori Carr, the then wife of Rat guitarist Robin Crosby. The cover did spark some controversy as some feminist and anti-violence groups criticized the band. Mark told the Detroit Free Press, "The record cover itself is supposed to show the Wheel of Life, and everyone in the Wheel of Life is strapped down to it. It's spin, wheel, spin, see where it lands." Mark added that the cover wasn't meant to offend people. The band did also record Shout It Out for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey in 1991. That song was a minor hit, peaking at number 40 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. It was at that year's American Music Awards Stick It To Ya was nominated for Best Metal Album, and despite the group's rapid rise, their members seemed to have their heads on straight, with Mark telling the LA Times, "Serious musicians aren't into the whole glamour and being totally wild and out of control. It's hard to play this music and not live a little bit wild, but you really have to focus on the music and the business end of things if you want to make it." To capitalize on the band's success, their label issued a live album called Stick It To Ya Live, which went on to sell about 500,000 copies. They also issued a home video called From the Beginning that sold a respectable 50,000 copies. Now, this is an interesting side note as part of the tour the band did for their first album. They ended up crashing at a fan's house. A fan named Dan Zimmerman wrote to the group's fan club, offering up his house to the band to stay a night, thinking that the members were maybe sick of life in a tour bus or in hotels. He hosted a barbecue for Slaughter, and that saved them some money. The band admitted that it cost them about $18,000 a week to be on the road, and it turned out the members had visited Zimmerman previously when he was in the hospital for a ruptured spleen. They also played a show inside a fan's garage and at a Taco Bell in the parking lot. By 1991, Slaughter had their own day declared in their hometown of Las Vegas.
Here, and they declared it Slaughter Rock Band Day. They didn't want to call it Slaughter Day because for obvious reasons. This is our home. The Sin City image of this place, it's really a great community.
Cultivated a loyal following which they take seriously. So seriously that when a guitar-playing fan wanted to jam with the band, Slaughter showed up and held a concert in the North Carolina man's garage.
Everything we do, you know, we think about the fans.
And the fans put us where we are.
Exactly.
Continuing quest to be true to their fans, this band on the run recently held a free concert in the parking lot of a Miami, Florida Taco Bell. How'd they pick that location? Well, they were in town, it's their favorite restaurant, and Taco Bell agreed to donate money to a local drug rehab center. Fans were notably impressed by the band's generosity.
Well, it just proves that they're not so interested in money and just to please the fans, just like the fans are just yelling and screaming and showing them how much we love them often.
But they also had their fair share of detractors. They were voted the worst new band in several metal magazines, and the group was also criticized by some for writing sappy songs. Mark's voice was criticized for being too scratchy, while Elias and Kelly were branded as not being the strongest musicians. The band did have some issues on tour for their first album, as on the eve of a major tour in Europe in January of 1991, the Gulf War started. It resulted in the band's tour being cancelled. Strum told the Canadian press, "The entire tour had to be killed. We couldn't do a lot of interviews because a lot of journalists thought that Britain might be subject to terrorist attacks as retaliation for the attack on Iraq. So they thought writing about and promoting a band called Slaughter would be in poor taste. There were problems with the police, especially with the passports." This incident was memorialized on the group's follow-up record on the song Times They Change, with former NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw discussing the anniversary of the first Gulf War on the track. As part of Slaughter's tour for their first album, they played somewhere in the order of 300 shows, before beginning work on their follow-up 1992's The Wildlife. By the band's own admission, their second outing was more aggressive than the first. They did the same type of focus group testing on the album to choose which tracks to put on the final product. The Wildlife's cover showed a man cracking a whip at a boy holding a guitar, which held special significance for the members. According to guitarist Tim Kelly, the band wasn't trying to portray a negative image, but rather a positive one. According to guitarist Tim Kelly, "When we saw this picture, which is a 17th century line drawing from Smithsonian Magazine, we saw Dana and myself as a child who was not supported in his ambitions." Around 32,000 fans from the group's fan club and mailing lists were sent a 6-song demo tape months before their second record came out. Strum recalled to the Chicago Tribune how several days later, the band got about 2,000 letters thanking the band for the gesture. He added, after we'd sold a couple million albums, people thought we'd become elite. Everyone's looking at the Seattle bands, and they won't deal with fans. I like to see where Nirvana is 5 years from now. I like to see how long Guns N' Roses fans are going to put up with them canceling shows and not letting fans get near them. Surprisingly, the band set up their biggest fan base not in LA or Vegas, but in Chicago, with Strum recalling, "We're from the heartland, and the Midwest is the first region that took to us, and that's because we're down to earth. This is a down to earth area." Strum also took a shot at other bands like Aerosmith and Motley Crue, taking pride in how Slaughter wrote their own songs, produced their own albums, and even engineered their own records, adding that fans knew that Slaughter's songs were all genuine. By this point in time, though, the type of music that Slaughter was playing was falling out of favor with a lot of the public, as a new breed of bands, a lot of which were from Seattle, were the new kids in town. Released in April of 1992, the group's second album, The Wildlife, went to number 8 on the charts in the States, eventually going gold. To support the record, the band toured alongside Ozzy and Ugly Kid Joe, but the tour presented a big challenge for the group. It turned out at the time, Mark had a vocal problem, a nodule on his vocal cord, and had to go in for surgery. It took about 6 months for him to heal, with Kelly remarking how Mark's voice came back stronger. Apart from Times They Change, which I mentioned earlier, some other notable songs on their second album included the single Real Love, a song that was written about hopeless romantics. Even Beverly Hills 90210 star Shannon Doherty appeared in the video. The song was the only single released from the record to chart on the Hot 100 chart at number 69 and number 24 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. Meanwhile, the title track peaked at number 28 on the rock charts in the States. The band's label even issued a second home video to document the making of the record. The home video did end up going gold. Slaughter, interestingly enough, also opened for bands that they were outselling on the tour to promote their second record, including Poison and Trickster. Strum recalled how the band was doing nothing at the time and simply asked their management if they could just go out and play some live shows. The band wasn't being paid for the gig, but they instead took a gamble, hoping their t-shirt sales would be enough to cover their expenses. Even though the band's album sales had fallen significantly after just 2 years, they still had a huge fan base. The Chicago Tribune remarked about the band's appeal, writing in 1992, "There's no denying that this average pop metal band has carved out a far from average space in the hearts of fans. Guys like them, girls absolutely love them. Not since Skid Row had there been a band that had appealing to both sexes. Why is this simple Las Vegas quartet shining brighter than other heavy metal bands? It proves there's no such thing as too big of a party." Slaughter's meteoric rise with their debut album is a testament to the unpredictable nature of rock and roll. Against the odds, the band achieved gold and eventually double platinum status before ever playing a live show, thanks to a blend of industry experience, relentless fan support, and the unstoppable force that was MTV. While critics questioned their authenticity and musicianship, Slaughter's connection with their audience, their willingness to share personal stories, and their refusal to chase trends set them apart in a rapidly changing musical landscape. Their journey from focus group experiments to arena stages and even backyard barbecues with fans captured a unique moment at the tail end of the glam metal era, one where music and the people behind it mattered most. That brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.